Oh, hey there, guys, and we are back with another PC build here. This time we're doing the Platinum build. Obviously, as stated last time, this part of the month of reinvention. Go ahead and dislike according to what you want to see. Obviously, go back and do that on all the other videos from this month if you haven't already. That would be much appreciated. I need a little more input than has already been contributed. I don't care if it's dislike. Like, honestly, if you don't want to like anything, just dislike what you don't want. That's fine. But, yeah, this time we're doing the Platinum build. And also, as with last time, its price has shifted. This time very dramatically. Look at that. You're going to be paying about $34.50 for this thing at the moment. So if you go onto our website, disregard the price, even though it was originally a pun, because it was going to be $4,000 anyway, and it does 4K. This would be a good option, but just make sure you send an email letting us know you want that, as well as PayPal link or name or something to that effect. That way we can put in a money order for you for the correct price, not $4,000, because that is certainly dropped quite a bit. I wonder which part of this dropped the most. Interesting to consider, but not interesting enough to waste too much time. So obviously, since this is supposed to be basically the top of the line system you can get anywhere, it is going to be running some pretty major hardware. This is not so much for the gamer specifically. The last one might be a little more suited, or if you want something that's maxed out like this but for gaming, you might want to consider going to our custom build section on the this tab here. The build section leads you to a link to go ahead and input some information so you can let us know what you want. Yeah, leave this page. Okay, I'm going back to the website now. Leave this page. Anyway, Platinum build, we're ditching the Fabergé egg for more of a, I don't know, a titanium egg in this case. We're ditching some of the looks for more performance. So this case system is going to work quite well. We're obviously, since we're focusing more on something like you would want if you were going into like rendering as well as gaming, as well as maybe recording all at the same time. This 8-core processor has enough threads to handle all that. It is a hyper-threaded 8-core, meaning it has 16 virtual cores, 8 physical cores. So it'll be able to handle tons of processes no matter what. It's at 3 gigahertz by default, but you can tune that up quite a bit despite the 8-core architecture. All those cores obviously being closer together, since it's an 8-core, means that it will output more heat. That's why they have it clocked at 3 gigahertz, which is also why we went with the NHD15. And if you didn't watch our last episode, I mentioned in it that the NHD15 compares like up in the top of the top for all-in-ones, essentially. If you have an all-in-one cooler, all-in-one liquid cooler, that sort of thing, this performs just as well and runs quieter. Like, I'm running it in my system right now. It is virtually silent. I think it's running at about 16 decibels at the moment. It's down there. It is insane, and it cools so well. Overclocked 4.5 gigahertz right now, running it at that low RPM, 30-ish degrees, up to about 40. Nothing above 40 degrees Celsius under load. That's pretty insane. Next, we're using the Asus X99 Deluxe motherboard from, well, I guess it's from Asus. I already said that. It's a nice board, especially to contrast the black and more black of the case here. It definitely looks nice with all these shrouds, and the heat sinks here also go and wrap over the I/O panel, make sure you keep your NIC cool, as well as just generally make it look nice, because a lot of motherboards, in fact basically every motherboard nowadays except for some of these deluxe type of motherboards, have an exposed I/O that doesn't look too nice. If you have it in a system, it generally is kind of an eyesore that you want to cover up with something, generally a cooler. And speaking of which, this cooler, since the NHD15 as compared to the D14 has the memory slot cutouts here, the memory we're going to be mounting in here will fit, even though you have the channels on both sides. So we're looking at some data XPG memory, has nice high profile memory heat sinks, 16 gigs of it, 33 megahertz for DDR4 memory with a cache latency of 13. It's important to consider that primary cache latency, which is the only thing they record on these things, is 13, but the primary doesn't matter nearly as much as the secondary timings. And especially if you're going for ADATA, one of the highly regarded memory manufacturers, you're going to get quality. You're going to get good performance on this. Next, we're basically sort of just upgrading the system from the gold build in terms of storage. We're still sticking with the 120 gigabyte SSD for our boot drive. Strictly boot, maybe like a program on there too, but you don't want to typically put a whole lot on the boot drive. Next, we have our 480 gigabyte SSD, which is double the capacity of the one in the gold build. So this will basically be able to hold most of your games, if not all of them, as well as some programs such as maybe a recording or an editing software on there, which would be primarily what this functions for. You want it to be snappy if you load anything on there. For mass storage, especially for this build, it makes sense. You're generally going to be using those cores for rendering out videos or recording them, so you're going to need somewhere to store those finished or recording files. So this 5 terabyte NAS hard drive makes sense, especially with 7200 RPM speed on it, so it's going to stay sort of in the sweet spot. 5900 RPM is going to be too slow, but it will be on the very quiet side of things, whereas 10,000, which are made for like some of the Velociraptor drives from Western Digital, is going to be way too fast and cause a lot of racket. As well, this will be particularly nice. It has a nice large cache, so it'll be able to move files, especially small ones, a lot quicker. So if you're just moving a couple things back and forth, this will basically store them in the cache for like a microsecond and put it in the correct place on the drive. Sorry about that. Moving on, we have, instead of two 970s, we now have two 980s from EVGA. They're not the triple cooler cards. We could spring for them if you want the extra cost associated with them, but this is basically where the performance maxes out. Even though it only has 2 fans, you get the highest core clock on it, 1.27 gigahertz, or in other words, what is that, like 1,290-ish gigahertz or megahertz on that core clock, and it boost clocks up to somewhere in the range of 1,400 megahertz or above. So it is definitely one of the greater cards. It's not going to have, like I said, the best cooling since it's just a dual fan operation there, and it has a fairly high TDP to keep up with there for those 2 fans, but it manages to do it well. You're not going to overclock a whole lot on these cards, but they will do their job, and they're basically the cheapest you can get for a 980. At least cheapest you can get for one of the highest quality 980s. Next, we're going with the hold on. Oh, that might explain some of the price dropping off. the case no longer has a price apparently because none of the options I've selected have the 935 in stock anymore. But regardless, we'll use this as a reference image. It is a two-part case. One mounts on top of the other or vice versa. The idea is you mount all your pretty components in this middle case, and anything you don't want, like if you were to water cool, you'd put your radiators down here, or in our case, it would likely be power supply, maybe a fan or two down there to make sure air circulates. We would also maybe want to put our hard drives down there because I do believe it comes with a few drive cages already in there, capable of holding, I believe, 8 hard drives. So if you ever want to upgrade, no problem, this will cover you. Generally, the 935 is just like the best case you can get, but you know how things work with unique cases like this where you can literally stack the case with a smaller case on top of it. They generally get pretty overpriced. I believe this case is about $300, which is where a majority of that money dropped off from. So it's more around $3,750-ish at the moment. After the $100 added for what's it called? For our profit as well as shipping. Next, we're using a 750 watt 80 plus platinum ATX power supply from Antec because they're one of the only ones that makes a platinum power supply at this sort of range. Most of them go for platinum once they're up in the 1000 to 1500 to 1600 watt range. Like they just get insane up there and they're like, yeah, we'll add platinum to this since you need this much wattage. We figure you're going to want to keep most of it. But Antec thankfully decided to make a platinum in the generally sort of middle to high range of 750. So I believe 80 plus platinum. Let me just fact check this real quick, but I believe it's in the 95 plus category here. We'll go to 80 plus. Okay, so platinum is going to be, okay, so anywhere from, oh, these were just small scale tests. I'm going to stick with the numbers they report, even though they're a little bit lower than some of the numbers I've seen. We'll go with 90 to 94%, but in reality it's more like 92% to 95% efficiency. So basically, almost all the power that's going from the wall is going to be used in your case. It's not going to be converted to heat that the power supply then needs to use this fan for. So it'll keep the fan quiet. In fact, it'll likely stay off or on very low RPMs much of the time, making this a very quiet case. This case also has many spots for you to mount fans, especially in these. It has, I believe, 2 140 mils in the front, a 120 or a 140 in the back. 3 on the top if you decide to leave off the case on the top and instead put it on the bottom. And it doesn't appear to have any side panel fans, just based on what I'm seeing. But it is quite a hefty case. And we're obviously running Windows 8.1, 3-sided cables for the 3 hard drives. Comes out to about $3,750 for the total, even though the case, minus the case, it's about $3,350. So I guess now we're going to start comparing it to our iBuyPower equivalent. So let's just go back to the home page here and start right from the outset. Better go back. They have, there we go, X99. So we're going to try to find a decent case here that looks about the same here. Either this one or this one. That one looks a little flashy. We'll be nice to them and say this one, since it's a little bit less than the other. We're not using any old 5820K. We're using the, what is it, 5960X, correct. So we're jumping up to the max level here. We're going to assume that this is the best they can do. In reality, this might be the best they can do. The X40 is a decent cooler. They're offering some puny coolers here, but I'll take them. Next, we're using 16 gigs of DDR4 2400 is about the closest we can get. And it's an 8x2 kit, correct? Yes, 8x2 kit. Keep in mind, if you want to add 3 extra kits of this, oh, the memory also doesn't have its price tag on here, which would add. So I think it's actually probably about the same price as it was, unfortunately. So 1400 is, or 4000 is about its price, I assume. But this memory comes in 2 8-gig sticks, so if you want to get 3 more of these, you can fill up all the RAM slots in there and have a total of 64 gigs of RAM. Not a bad deal. But right now we're not doing that. Yep, XPGZ1. And we're looking for
if
the
you paid extra,
EJ
we would
super
do that
clock.
for you.
Oh wow.
For the RAM.
Hold on, wait. What is that an upgrade from this? Huh. Well, we're not doing that.
I found some really good songs for surf music, Chris, by the way.
You do that.
No, I already found some, like, amazing songs.
Okay. That sounds good. Let's see if there's not a whole lot of motherboards out there. So Asus X99 Deluxe. Yep, there it is. There's our nice motherboard. We're using a 750 watt 80 plus platinum. There's an A plus gold, A plus bronze, A plus gold. I don't know that they carry any. Oh, there's a platinum. That's a little excessive. I think the price is a little high on that. I think this is going to be the next comparable one in terms of price point. Let me just verify the price on here to make sure. Yeah, that's going to be about right. Next we're running, oh yeah, we're going to have to do all this wacky stuff with the drives. So, they don't have a 5 terabyte, but I think, is there a way you can bundle SSDs? No. So we're just going to have to go for the equivalence, so, well, as close to the equivalent as we can get, and grab ourselves one that has a 120 in the 2 terabyte, and then one with the 512 in the 2 terabyte, to try to replicate as closely as possible the price there. Yeah, this one is a clear winner, I'd say. Like, even using their parts that are exactly the same as ours, you can definitely tell there's a bit of a disparity here. Using an inferior cooler and everything, they ought to be ashamed. They're charging extra for things. But anyway, we'll forgive them, because we have been a tiny bit above them at certain points. But if you're looking for basically, you know, like the best you can get for a ridiculous price, obviously, go ahead and pick up the Platinum build. We'll be sure to get you that as soon as possible. Make that a cool $4,010 for a max overclock on it. That should be a nice rendering slash gaming slash recording machine, any way you slice it. I guess we'll end it off here and call it there. So don't forget to like, dislike all the videos this week. The final decision is tomorrow. So
Of what type of game we're doing?
Yes, what type of content in general. So make sure you get those likes and dislikes in. But until next time, guys, oh, bye there.
Bye-bye.